Yeah, then another welcome for those who additionally joined our partner track here in Spectrum C. My name is David Birkenbach, partner officer for Cloud ALM. So trying to be your advocate, all of our partners, and in that role, I had also the pleasure to learn a lot from what partners are doing, how partners are using Cloud ALM. I'm often surprised. They are very creative. I mean, they have to overcome challenging situations of managing multiple projects, rolling out Cloud ALM in their own organization, integrating the tool chain. And I'm very happy today that I found two partners and friends that are willing to come on stage and introduce their best practices. And we will get to know, first of all, CBS with Karl Winter, talking about the tool chain and their experiences that they already did with the integrated tool chain approach and transformation projects. And happy to have the famous mythbuster here in the room today, Ole. You know him already from the main stage yesterday, and he is also telling you about the myth about Cloud ALM. Also very surprised what they will do. So with no further ado, from my side, I would like to hand over on stage Karl. Please welcome and give him a hand.
Thanks a lot, David. That's cool. I'm already on the speaker. But not, there we are. Okay, so thank you very much, David, for having me, for the invitation to share our approach in transformation projects, how we plan to use the tool chain in our projects, and later on what the reality in the projects then is, because that's not always the same. I'll have a short agenda fitting to the 15 minutes that we get. First, I'll do a very short intro of CBS, because most of you probably have never heard of CBS and what we do. Then I'll have a look at our methodology and how we plan to use the tool chain there, how we address this to our customers in the first phases of large transformation projects where we are focused on, and then what we, or especially I, experience in the project reality then when I talk to customers in the first sessions about the tool chain and how that hits them when starting into the projects with us. So CBS in a nutshell, wave to our marketing. We are headquartered in Heidelberg, Germany, a little bit to the south, like 50, 60 kilometers, close to Walldorf, so between here and Walldorf, that's us. We expect to be 2,000 consultants by next year, or not by the end of this year, but some day next year. And we are really focused on SAP business. So nearly everything we do, 95% is SAP, and especially SAP transformation projects. And here we are covering nearly everything that's out there to deliver, from business consulting to AMS, anything in between. You may be surprised that we do as well AI in our projects as business AI, but we're delivering transformation projects as well with our enterprise transformer, our software for delivering selective transformation projects. Now, talking about the integrated tool chain, there is no dedicated team here or portfolio item, because we deliver this from all our teams. So all our consultants are trained in the usage of Cloud ALM, how to work in implementations, how to work in testing, how to use the tool. And as well for Signavio, for here now, we train everyone who's working with us in projects in the usage of Signavio, because that's just out there, and in nearly all our projects we have to deal with the tools and its functionality. And LeanIX, we're now adding from the technology consulting, growing into the other departments as well, this portfolio item. So that's it to CBS. Our product vision, our CBS project methodology, how do we deliver projects? And it's probably with all partners the same. We are very close to Activate, because that's really established for a long time in the market, and SAP is pushing that out there, but we have small adjustments, so we have one phase less. But in the end, we cover the same, and it fits as well to what's in Cloud ALM for delivering our projects. So we are very close and we adhere to this, and we use as well Cloud ALM for the queue gates, which is the most important point for us now in the RISE projects, because if you do not do the queue gates, the customer will not get all the transformation incentive, and that's really big money you risk to lose with them, and SAP is as well watching whether you do this. Yeah? So if you run a project for RISE and you don't use the queue gates, someone will call you and ask you, why are you not doing this? So be aware. That's why we all need Cloud ALM in our RISE projects, right? Okay, so all of you have seen this slide, the depiction of the tool chain. It's now growing, which I like very much, because here famous Cloud ALM is missing. But in the end, that's as well just, well, it's a logo for what we're doing here for the tool chain. It's people on there, it's projects, it's adaptation, applications, and processes. And what I really appreciate was this overview, where you can see in which phase of the projects did you need which tool and what to do in there. And yeah, I see people taking pictures. You want the slides, you're getting them later. If you need them in the PowerPoint, just write me an email. You can ask some working student in your organization to draw this. That doesn't make sense. You can get the slide in PowerPoint presentation mode. Good. What I like more than this logo of the tool chain is this depiction. That's nothing to stand on stage and explain what it's there, because no one will be able to follow in the rows back there. Maybe you can't read everything, but it's all there what the customers need. And that's our approach. We do not start in the projects with what can Signavio do for you, what can LeanIX do, what do you need Cloud ALM for? We started, what are you doing as an organization, and what is your naming for this? Because that's as well important that you get with the naming conventions right with your customers, that they know what you're talking about. And you know what they're talking about. So that's for now, that's a drawing I copied from Mark Thier 2 years ago at his keynote and adapted it to our color schema and so on, and I removed some items which I don't like or didn't understand, but in the end that's the working document here with which I start into the workshops and try to find out what are we talking about while preparing for a large transformation project. I added myself the WalkMe because that was not there 2 years ago, and that's a close integration with Signavio and LeanIX, at least according to the roadmap that I've seen. I got a laugh, that's good. Now, when we're looking at the phases in the project, or what are you doing in these tools that we are now focused on, we start with LeanIX or Signavio, enterprise architecture, business process management, and then later on Calm or for implementations, or for what we've seen this morning for the coordination of the tool chain activities there. And later on Tricentis for the automatic testing. But from our point of view, there's something missing, because you don't start a project when you want to transform your organization, your enterprise, with working on enterprise architecture or starting analyzing business processes. And that's why we had as well, 2 years ago already, Tangible Growth, a small company from Finland, on this slide. And they're focusing on strategy and vision execution, and then in the execution part based on OKR methodology. And we want to use this in the definition phase, in the strategy phase and vision phase of the project, to find out what are we aiming for, what are the targets for our project, and how to break this down into OKRs. So what do we want to fulfill, what do we want to reach? And we added this as well to our tool chain for the functionality down there. And the advantage here is normally, if you don't write, normally you do this vision statements in the beginning in a PowerPoint, then you take it, put it somewhere, and at the end of the project you take it out and decide, here maybe 30%, didn't we decide to not deliver this, 70%, and that's it. In the steerco meetings, you often discuss how many defects are there, how many open tickets, are we behind the timeline, and so on. But often enough, you do not focus on why are we here, why are we doing this project, and that's why we added tangible growth to our methodology, because we can always check back, are we still on track or have we lost our track? That's something that looks very promising to us, and we're now implementing this in our methodology. And then with all my shiny and bright slides, I get to the customer, and then it hits reality. And that's not the customer here on the right, that's our project manager. Because the first one who will tell me, we don't need this mining in Signavio. Or we have an architecture picture, look here, it's a PDF, we don't need LeanIX. First line of defense, I had to convince lots of our project leads that their Excels that they are now using for 20 years in the transformation projects, that's not the future way or the actual way to run large transformation projects. Because things are changing and we want to not only focus on the project at hand, but as well on the future transformations. Because honestly, all our customers will not finish now a transformation and then, they're off for some years. It will be a continuous way forward that they're in for. And we call this like training the transformation muscle, so they stay on speed, stay focused on transformation and can deliver then the next transformation projects more easily. And project reality, I'll go over this quickly. Often enough, we start a project, we ask, when do you want to start, or when did you plan to start? 3 months ago. It's always the same people you talk to, and then you try to find out, well, they have the daily job, and they have 5 roles in the project we are now planning. That doesn't work. So project people, resources are already stretched. And then people stick to the established tools. We are using Polarion, for example, for test management for years now. We don't want to change this. Why do we need Cloud ALM? Where is it better? And then you discuss, and later on, after some sessions, you find out it's not only there for test management, but as well for validation. And for not just validation of any process in the SAP, but for their machinery, or for their own software that they deliver their machinery with. Yeah? So that's all the things that come up in the discussions. Sometimes when you talk to someone alone, he says, I'm only here for the next 2 years. I don't want you to replace my tool that I introduced 20 years ago. That's the reality. You will not win this fight as a consultant, only if you have a 5-year program. Budgets are already tight, so they spend all their budget on RISE, on S4, because that's not that cheap, as we may think. And then you come up with the bright idea, when you now buy Signavio and LeanIX, you get even faster. Do you have 1 million left? Often enough, that's not the case. And honestly speaking, some of the tools have still some functionality to deliver. Smaller projects, they're fine. Public cloud implementations, they're fine. But given a large program for big SAP footprint in an enterprise, that's not enough. Let's say 60 up to 1,000 productive systems. I will not be able to run this now with Cloud ALM, probably. And there's as well some ask for integration functionality. Just by pushing some data from one system to the other, that's not integration. Why do I have to push this over to Cloud ALM? Why can I not consume my business process management documentation from Cloud ALM directly? Just things like that. And often in project discussions, real problem is the real value of the invest you're now taking will come after the project. So the project manager will tell you, I do a lot of invest now, resources, budget, and so on, but the project manager who leads the next project will be the one to get the real value from that. You've heard probably all of that, or used this, if you were on the other side, as arguments against the tool chain. But having arguments against something does not mean that the vision is wrong. And now comes an ugly slide, because that's a working slide I use when talking to customers, because I focus on what do we need for the project now. Is there an open space where we can get into with our tools from the tool chain? Do you have test management? Can we replace it with Cloud ALM, with Tricentis? Or do you have something, we keep to this, but for later on, after the project or at the end of the project, we find out for the future, how can we use parts of the tool chain? So I start always with the left. I find out how the customer's naming conventions is for what they do. I try to get out of them what tools they use and why they're using this, and where could we come into with our idea of the tool chain, or where can we integrate this? And often we have, like, starting with solution manager, small implementations of Cloud ALM, LeanIX not for the entire organization, but just for the parts of the organization that the project at hand covers, so that we can grow with the tool chain within the customer organization. And we decide, what do we not do for the project? Because that's important. You're running a 2-year program, and after a year, someone comes and tells you, oh, you're not using LeanIX, that's bad, why are you not using this? Then I always have my slide which says, we decided together we don't use it, we'll do it afterwards. Yeah? So get your back to the wall, so no one can blame you. 4 key takeaways. Focus on the project at hand, and have a look at what life will be after the project. Can we introduce something that helps later? What do we skip for now because it doesn't make sense right now? Implement the tools only where they are applicable and manageable for the organization. Grow, as I mentioned with the LeanIX example, that can come later. Integrate the tools if you use them as much as needed and as much as is available, but be sure to not implement something that will harm the organization and the run of the system landscape later. And my recommendation, create a roadmap for later on. What will we do after the project? Helps in acquiring future projects, but as well, it helps you to cover the project setup that you decided on. Thank you very much. Questions later on at the table outside. It was a pleasure with you. Thank you. I'm sticking.
Looks familiar? Oh, okay. I think that's the first time for us, sir. Okay, then let me start with some slides. Yes, my name is Oli Jacek, coming from Deloitte, and as David already mentioned, I'm trying to be a mythbuster, because there are so many myths outside about Cloud ALM. I'm director at Deloitte, specialist director for delivery excellence, and have responsibility to introduce the tool and the tool chain, integrated tool chain, in all our projects that we have here in the European area. So I will call in a lot of this. And I will start with some of the challenges that we very often meet. So, hi all, we're starting a new project. Heard as a solution manager is replaced by Cloud ALM. Can you help us using Cloud ALM for transport and documentation? Okay, what's that? They wanted to transport management and for documentation because we used this as solution manager. In our existing solution manager environment, we are using that in that way. Where's the challenge? The challenge is that Cloud ALM is not built to just handle transports and documentation. That is not the idea behind, it's not the vision. So will this company or this project gets full business value out of using SAP Cloud ALM? No. We are coming from an area where we have a lot of islands. So the first myth is SAP Cloud ALM is a technical upgrade of Solution Manager, documentation, and charm. Is it right? No. SAP, so here we start telling the customer, and I also very often tell our project at Deloitte, we have to think in another way. This is a shift in the paradigm. It's a shift in how we should work with projects. We are leaving the monolithic legacy systems and we're moving into the cloud. Cloud requires a new way of thinking, a new way of running a transformation project. So it's replacing the solution manager, but it's not just a technical upgrade. It's a new approach of way of working. Embrace the full capability of SAP Cloud ALM. Then you will get the business value. So, and also to be ready for artificial intelligence. As you have seen in the keynotes today and yesterday, AI is very important. But how can you utilize AI? What is the basic things for AI that it not starts hallucinating so much? It's content. You need to give an AI model content. And this content, as you have seen over the last 2 days, is inside Cloud ALM. Even if we have an integrated tool chain, things are going into Cloud ALM, and then the LMM model is running against the things that are inside there. That's also a new way of thinking. And that is what we try to bring into the projects, this new way of thinking. So you remember, you can see an iceberg, and in the bottom of the iceberg, there you see the infrastructure basis people sitting. And on the top, all the project is running, the PMO and nice things. So, oh, we are now making design and having a lot of nice workshops, talking with the customer, talking in the and in the bottom, the basis is freezing a little bit. So in earlier projects, so let's see 24, my team with the delivery excellence were located together with all the nice guys and ladies in the infrastructure team. How can we from there drive a change to use and adapt Cloud ALM all over the project? It's difficult because we are invited to this meetings with the infrastructure, discussing integrations and interfaces and problems. So this has shifted in 25. So we have moved, and now we are allowed to sit together with the PMO, the program management, and they are starting asking us, how can we utilize this Cloud ALM better? One of the decisions that has been made, I showed that yesterday, was to totally reorganize the tool chain, the integrated tool structure. And the first draft of this was made for one customer 1.5 years ago, where I made the tool strategy for the whole greenfield implementation project. We'd move a little bit of stuff over, so selective transformation was it. And then I need to explain. But by having a line, a flat line, LeanIX, Signavio, Cloud ALM, Tricentis, it's a flat line. I've also been a nurse, so and a flat line is for me something instead. So I then popped it up and say, how are the integrations? How are they interacting together? And I found out in the middle of everything is SAP Cloud ALM. Because you can make nice processes, models in Signavio, but it needs to come to Cloud ALM to come to life. You can make some architecture in LeanIX, but to bring it into life, to bring it to the execution, bring it into Cloud ALM. Same as with testing and so on. But then very often also this is forgotten. The technical integration of how we bring this to life between our development system, implemented test systems, pre-prod, prod, to control all this. And what does PMO want? They want to control. They need to see where are we, how's the progress. We put it into Cloud ALM. The first projects we had was, oh, we are using Jira. Oh, we are using Azure DevOps. Coming from Solution Manager and Focus Build, it was a nightmare. I've worked with that several years, a lot of projects, And to make the integration to Jira live, it was a nightmare. Then came Cloud ALM. And there is an open API, or an API you can utilize. And one of my integration specialists, it took her a couple of days. The integration was up and running. And then a week, then all the mapping was there. And then we could start working with how should the flow be? Where's the governance? Then we could start talking about how is the business flow? How can we business value? How can all this be interactive? Because if you have an organization where, and in some organizations, they are only 60% is only SAP. They have systems around. Can you imagine? There's something outside SAP. And there are people that maintain it, there's people that are developing it, and all this. And they are not inside Cloud ALM, not yet, we are working on it. But they want to continue the work in Azure DevOps or in Jira, because everything is set up, and the SAP project is just one of the many IT projects they have. With this, we can end a wild discussion if it should be Azure DevOps or Jira or Cloud ALM, and say, take the best of both worlds, adapt. With that, we succeeded, and we have used right now in two companies in a regulated environment, and they said, okay, even if we have another project tool, even if we have other tools, we can see the advantage of using the integrated tool chain. So they have decided from the top level, we want to do this. That sounds right, also because we see the future in this integrated tool chain. And one very important advantage is, what does it cost, David, this Cloud ALM? It's for free. And project like this price tag, it's for free. There are some hidden things about BTP DMS and workflow automatization, but that comes down the line. But the basic things is the project management tool is for free, and it's in in most areas, it is totally on par for Jira. It enhanced things because we have an integration to the technical stuff. We can follow up things. We have a full traceability. Then you can see David mentioned in the last session, he had a lot of the partners contributing with several stuff. We from Deloitte contribute into processes. It's Xavio with processes that are not a part of SAP best practice, special industry processes. So we come with processes and user stories and stuff to pre-fill it, to accelerate this journey. So, and then we work with Insignavio, process modeling, the to-be processes, and push them to the Cloud ALM. And then we are working with requirement and all the process management, task management, and so on. We also decided for all these two projects, we do the solution documentation, of course, inside Cloud ALM, or from Cloud ALM with the BTP DMS where we store the documents. And then also we provide here inside user stories and other things that we can push into Cloud ALM to accelerate the projects. Oops. Then here we have our what we called the SAP Integrated Tool Chain Plus. That Deloitte has, we have our own Ascent method and tools. And our Ascent method and tools is the Deloitte framework for all kind of IT projects. So it's not only SAP. I have some colleagues that are on the other side. They work with Oracle and Salesforce. They use the same method and tool framework. So we are now building the integrations to Cloud ALM from where we have our process flows from Econ. So we also, like Signavio, I think who comes first, push the process hierarchy from the modeling tool into Cloud ALM. We also pushed requirement and user stories, but also we can put it back into our engine there. And also the same as we have our AI tools that push then documentation and unit test cases and test cases, test scripts and test plans from our engine. So we try to bring these two worlds together But again, in Cloud ALM is the content. So there is something that we need to take into account. Things are not just coming from itself. It has a lot of things that we are doing there. So that was short what we are doing. So I know it's not a bullet, this is the best practice, but this is from my real-life examples that it comes out that we do this stuff inside with Cloud ALM to leverage and take the full business value. And we from Deloitte have also, we have special teams also, and we train the teams, have our best practices, we adapt, and we have now made a decision that SAP Cloud ALM in our European region is the tool that we normally put in first before we come with Jira. Of course, if the customer wants it, we adapt to that. Thank you.